All right, welcome everybody to this evening's expert panel event. For those who are familiar with Pro Insight, what we do is we go looking throughout communities across the country for the top professionals from different industries. We bring them together inside of what we call an expert panel, where we give the consumer the unique opportunity to hear from professionals from different industries, all collaborating together on one very important topic. Tonight, we have the good fortune to be with top professionals in Roseville, California. We've chosen professionals from real estate, insurance, and wealth management. And these professionals have been handpicked to be with us this evening. And they're very generous with their time, really giving to the audience that they serve, the community that they serve. We're very grateful for them here. Now, for those that are listening to this after the fact, I want you to recognize how unique this is. Normally, to get this kind of experience, where you have a team of professionals from different industries consulting you, you would need to be what is often referred to as having your own family office. Now, if you are listening to this and you're worth north of $50 million, you may be very familiar and have your own family office. But for the rest of us, we don't oftentimes get these types of professionals consulting us collaboratively together. So tonight is your night to experience what it feels like to have that kind of service and attention from top professionals. So with no further ado, allow me to introduce first myself, Justin Stoddart. I'm the CEO of Pro Insight and have the good fortune of finding, curating these individuals and bringing them to each community. Secondly, let's go down the list here. We have we'll do ladies first. Renee Inman. She is an insurance specialist. She's been in the business for 24 years, 14 years with the same company. So you realize that she is stalwart and somebody who is not just great at what they do, but somebody who has really built herself as an icon in her community, serving clients in the insurance space. We have the top left, at least of my screen, Tom Daves. So for those that don't know Tom, he's been licensed for 45 years. I know he looks like he's younger than 45. I don't know how he does it, but we're just going to kind of breeze over that one. But just so that you all know, the largest actually brokerage, like real estate brokerage in the world, Tom was the #1 agent for 7 years in a row. So he's kind of a big deal. We have his amazing counterpart underneath me here, or just to the left of me, Johnny Jennings, 9 years licensed, a top producer in Roseville. You can see why Tom Daves has teamed up with Johnny, because he's as good as Tom, up and coming. So super fun to have both of them here this evening. And then we have Ken Christie up in the top right-hand corner. Ken Christie is in the wealth management space. He's been in the business for 33 years. Seen his firm manage over $349 million in assets and have their own brokerage model there. So very excited to have these professionals here. We're excited to be talking about this important topic of preparing for retirement in uncertain times. So again, that is the topic that we've brought these professionals together tonight to discuss. And again, we're excited to have them all here. So thank you to you all for being here. Let's, are we ready to get started? Should we dive in?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. Woo.
Let's roll. Okay. So with this being said, I want to start off actually with, let's start with Tom, top left-hand corner. Tom, you've been in the real estate industry for a long time. And I think we all recognize the fact that many people hold a lot of wealth in real estate. And when it comes time to retire, not many people know, having built real estate portfolios, how to maybe remove themselves from that more complicated lifestyle of managing properties and having all these working parts. You believe strongly in there comes a point where consolidating your real estate portfolio makes sense. Talk us through. I know you have some kind of key strategies that you help clients with that. Why don't you kick us off with kind of talking about those?
Sure. Thank you, Justin. Well, as you think of consolidation, you think of a word that goes right along with that, and that's simplify. And so many people right now, especially as they get up in their years, they want to simplify their life. They want to consolidate. They want to retire. They want to spend time with who they want to spend, where they want to spend it, when they want to spend it, traveling with family, all of these things. So one of the key components to this is to consolidate your rentals. So we've had many clients that we've served that want to consolidate their rentals. So they have multiple rentals and multiple different locations. And the #1 key is to connect with a professional, either someone on this panel or connect with a professional that you know, because you need to get expert advice. And so the number one goal when you're consolidating is you want to avoid paying taxes. You know, that's one of the keys to almost all of the multi-millionaires. You can go from Warren Buffett all the way down the list. So you want to avoid paying Uncle Sam, right? So one of the key strategies is to use a 1031 deferred exchange. A lot of people call it a 1031 tax-free exchange, but it's a tax-deferred exchange. You're deferring the tax and you're deferring that gain. So there's a lot of different strategies. There's one strategy that's called a Delaware statutory trust, where you're exchanging into a syndication. And let's say, for example, if you have 10 rentals, you sell those, and then you exchange that through a 1031 deferred exchange into a syndication. It may be a 300-unit multifamily where you're actually like the angel investor. You have the equity, and the owner is the operator, the syndicator. So you have a partner that is the operator. They basically handle everything for you. You know, you just exchange in, and then obviously the return would be lower on that, but it's pretty nice because you don't really have to worry about anything. It's a conservative return, but that's the first option, a Delaware statutory trust, a DST. Another one,
Tom, real quick, let's add, I know, Ken, you deal with a lot of clients who are maybe consolidating down real estate, right?
Yep.
And they're doing something with it, right? You have thoughts on a DST. If you could say that strategy that Tom just explained right there is probably for somebody who's looking for a very specific outcome. What would you say about somebody who says, ooh, DST, a Delaware statutory trust, I think that's for me. Talk to us a little bit about that persona.
Sure. You know, I think one of the places with my clients that we've experienced, the power of the Delaware statutory trust is literally you can kind of go, I'm done with having to have to deal with any of the management, any of the repairs, maintenance, upkeep, renewing leases. There's a lot of power in the release of that. Now, the downside to it has been that maybe in 3 years from now, you find something else that you like even better, and you have to wait for the Delaware statutory trust to have a liquidation event. But it's still a really powerful tool, and it really fits really well into that person that's really saying, I am ready to really be able to be hands off. I want to spend more time figuring out how to sail out in the Caribbean than worrying about if a toilet's running somewhere, you know, type thing. You know, one of the other things, you know, Tom can probably speak even a little more into this. We've had a couple of clients that the Delaware statutory trust looked really good, and then they actually saw some other opportunities into actually some direct real estate that they consolidated and exchanged to in some of these larger corporations that actually will do very long-term leases, and then you have some liquidity, but you have some responsibility, you know, companies like Starbucks and Dollar General, that sort of thing. And Tom, you're much more of an expert in maybe which ones look more attractive, but those are also some of the things that might be some alternatives. But I think evaluating both of those for what fits is really the key to deciding what's the best thing for you. And it is really important. I think what Tom said in the very beginning is utilizing actually professionals to come in and actually help evaluate so you can make the best decision, because it's not a right or wrong. It really is looking at the options, understanding the differences, and then making the best decision for yourself as you head into maybe retirement years, whether it's 2 years away or you're in it, or you're 10 years away, 15 years away, what have you.
You know, Ken, you bring up a really good point. Is that sometimes people try and John Wayne things a little bit. I know I'm talking to guys in California, appreciate, right, the Maverick, Mr. John Wayne himself.
Yeah.
I will say that there's you know, there's a bit of a downside when people try and, you know, Google it or YouTube it and figure it out without really getting customized consultation from a professional for their specific situation, right? So I can't emphasize that enough. As many as I've done these in parts all over the country, that seems to be a general trend that I hear of really kind of unfortunate stories of people who said, oh, I heard somebody did this and so I did it, but their situations were different, right? And so
Right.
it didn't work the same. And so getting that consultation from an advisor that's seen a number of different paths can help you choose which one is right for you is good. I want to go back to Tom and hear kind of his additional strategies, but Renee, anything that you have to add here that might be of interest around when people have portfolios, right? We're kind of talking about how to simplify life, how to consolidate down. And I know you working with property owners who own just individual residences as well as portfolios of properties. Share with us maybe a thought about kind of that simplification process and how one structuring their insurance ought to maybe think about that.
Sure, thank you. I think when it comes down to Ken's side of the business, he probably sees an entire client's portfolio, and the first thing he's going to want to see is, where are all those policies at? Are they all under one roof? Can we do better on any of that? We work with a lot of financial planners. We work with financial planners and we help kind of simplify that. A lot of times we're in California right now, so it's a little bit of a different time in the insurance market, but 9 times out of 10, it's better to have the customer have all of their insurance in one place. And I always advocate for people to talk to a broker or talk to a captive agent, which would be like your State Farm, Farmers, and then go to a broker and kind of shop it all out and see where you're at. You could save a lot of money just keeping it all in one place.
Great. I appreciate that. That's really good insight. Is again, if we're looking at simplification, that's one way to do it, right? And I do believe that insurance companies will be able to give you favored pricing if they recognize they're not just insuring one property, but maybe insuring 10, right? Is that you're probably missing out on some economies of scale there if you put it under one roof. So maybe before we go back to Tom, Johnny, anything else you want to add to this before we go back and hear these additional strategies on consolidation? I know we're going to lean heavy on you here in just a minute. So, but if you have
no, I'm good. I'm saving my ammo for later.
I love it. Okay, Tom, let's keep rolling, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Well, then another option is another DST, deferred sale trust. And that's where you can exchange your properties through a 1031 intermediary, and you can invest in stocks, bonds, or investments. And again, that's a very conservative option, but still, that is an option to consider. And then, as Ken was mentioning, if you want more control, you can 1031 into a triple net lease or be the owner operator of either a retail building or a Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, Chipotle. So in other words, you would buy the building and then you would lease it to a triple net lease. That basically triple net is they pay for everything. They pay for the maintenance, the utilities, the water, sewer, garbage, the everything. They pay everything. So you just basically own the building and they pay everything. So that's another option. And then also another option is to 1031 exchange into multifamily building. You can, multifamily units are great investments. I mean, there's always people that want to rent properties. They want to rent apartments. So that's always a great option. And then the final that I was going to mention is there is an option to consolidate your loans. So if you have multiple properties, you have the option to consolidate those loans through a portfolio lender into just one loan. So that frees up some liquidity and some options to do some other things. So thank you.
Yeah, great insight. You brought forward some ideas that I had never heard of. That last one in particular is a really interesting one, is actually consolidating not only your insurance under one roof, but also the actual loans themselves. Ken, what additional thoughts would you have around these other strategies? Again, you've got all this money in real estate, right? When you think about like baby boomers of today, looking to simplify life, and they're moving that money somewhere. What did we miss? Are there any strategies that you want to talk more about that Tom shared, or any others that maybe we should discuss, of people who are moving money out of real estate into another vehicle or a different type of real estate vehicle?
Yeah, I think one of the things to realize is that the power of the 1031 exchange is you can move money over and you can avoid tax. But sometimes it actually makes sense because maybe you're so real estate heavy that you really don't have much in the way of stocks, bonds, and other investments, and you want to diversify as well. And so you don't have to do a full exchange. You might pay some tax, but calculations can be run at, hey, if you're willing to pay X amount in taxes, you can maybe take $1 million off the table and actually then fully diversify it, and here would be your tax bill. And that might be something to consider, because diversification is such an important part of really preparing yourself and actually positioning yourself to have one of the highest probabilities of a successful outcome in retirement. So again, walking through, having calculations run is just a really, really powerful part to the retirement plan. And I think the other thing to consider is that this consolidation that was also talked about on the loan side, psychologists actually say that a lot of the stress and debt, the correlation between the two is not how much you owe, it's how many you owe. So if somebody goes and has one mortgage and that's all they have, they kind of go, okay, I know what the numbers are. I know what my monthly payment is. I can keep track of that in my head. But a person that has one mortgage and 9 credit cards that each credit card has $2,500 balance on, it's still not necessarily a lot of debt, but their stress level is really high because they just feel like every time, I look at my email or I go to my mailbox, oh man, another bill came due, and I missed that one because I'm so busy. So consolidation in retirement is such an important part, whether it's looking at your real estate, looking at your mortgages and loans, looking at your insurances, looking at your investments. We had a client come in the other day that had 7 different financial advisors that they worked with. And they were like, I don't know what I have. I don't know how much I have. I don't know if I'm going to be okay. And I'm like, well, of course you don't. It's like your stuff is spread out all over the place. And then you've got 7 people that you're getting advice from, but obviously you don't really trust them because you haven't really said, you're my go-to person. And so simplifying life, get the people on your team that you really trust, and then go with it. And you know what? Maybe every once in a while, one car insurance policy is $12 more per month, or maybe your title insurance for the loan you refied was $50 more than what somebody else had. But get the people you work with, because at the end of the day, build a team, simplify your life, and you're going to actually find your stress levels a lot lower. And I don't know how much that saves you in medical bills, reducing your stress, but I'm going to bet it's pretty big. And it's a lot more than maybe a couple little dollars you're paying here or there, spreading everything out all over the place.
Ken, I think another thing in addition to everything you said is that sometimes when the more complicated your situation is, you leave quite the mess for the next generation, right?
So true.
That you have all these properties, and some of the heirs may have a need for cash now. Others want to keep it in that. Whereas when you can make a decision on behalf of the family, that's simple and easy for people to follow, as opposed to leaving a complicated situation. And going back to the topic of how do you consolidate not just maybe a property portfolio, but consolidating the complexity of a portfolio, right? All of that is not just for you, but it's actually maintains peace and family. And unfortunately, sometimes I see people who work so hard throughout their lives to leave something for their kids, and they actually leave a mess, and they leave all kinds reasons for fights, which is quite sad. That's the opposite of what they would have wanted, right? And so
Right.
do your family a great favor through this process as well. And maybe you can speak to, I'm sure you've seen both sides of that. Somebody who left it in a nice, pretty bow that was easy for everybody to enjoy the benefits of what mom and dad built over time. And then at other times, they left them an absolute explosive ticking time bomb, right? It was just going to be a mess for everybody.
Right. Oh, the number of times that we have seen, the complicated be even way more complicated than it needs to be, and then the issues that arise in just the different personalities of kids and grandkids, and navigating through that. The more you can do to actually consolidate, have a solid plan in place that your family can navigate when you're no longer here, really, really important. And it's not just financial, it's also the emotional stuff too. Had a client that had when he passed away, he had a fantastic estate plan in place. A couple years later, wife passes away. Everything transitioned exactly like it was supposed to, and there was a lot of money getting passed on to the two kids. But the issue came down to, it was like, well, who gets dad's money clip? Because both of them said, hey, I remember when I'd go to the movies and dad would pull his money out of his pocket and pop the dollars out of his money clip and hand them out. And the two ended up fighting over who gets the money clip, and it wasn't addressed in the estate plan at all. And we're talking millions of dollars of an estate, and they're literally fighting over an incredibly emotional thing. And the reality was there was actually a lot of other tension between the two kids. But at the same time, it was one of those that it was like, hey, why don't you get it this year? Next year, you wrap it up, and that's your Christmas gift you give to your sister next year, and you alternate back and forth. So figuring out how to navigate some of these little emotional things as part of the estate plan and all of that are really just as important as actually also navigating through the complicated and the big dollar items too. But don't miss the small things along the process.
I don't think dad would have ever thought that kids were interested in the thing that held the money, but just right.
Right.
Renee, you have spoken and are an expert on this topic of simplifying when it comes to portfolios, whether people are consolidating and selling or whether they're just trying to live a more simple life, and even a less costly life, right? As the cost of living continues to increase, and not everybody will have tons of money to pass on and big portfolios to consolidate. What advice would you have to those people who are really looking for ways in, again, maybe a tepid insurance market, of how to really kind of navigate these waters and maybe not be paying for insurance unnecessarily?
Well, that's a great question. I think the first thing that I think retirement would be, you'd be a little apprehensive at first. It's exhilarating. But chances are you're going to drive a whole lot less once you're retired. The commute, the day-to-day commute, you might do some chunk driving on a trip here and there, but your day-to-day commute is what you're rated on auto. And so I think if your mileage was 50 miles a day and you went down to 5, I mean, cha-ching right there, because your exposure is so much less at 5 versus 50 miles a day. So that's the first thing that I would do. Also, I would say, or I would advise somebody to maybe increase their comprehensive deductible, or their collision deductible, excuse me, maybe a little bit higher, and keep your comprehensive, which is basically your windshield, etc. Keep that kind of low, so you'll save some money there. And then also, if you're 55 and older, you can sign up for a mature driving course, and you can save money there. You can get it through AARP or another local provider, and I mean, they're just cheapy. And you can have that certificate, you turn it into your insurance agent, and you have a discount there that you wouldn't otherwise know unless you talk to an insurance professional that wants to help you save the money. Sometimes if you call a 1-800 number, they're not going to know to guide you that way. So I always suggest to have somebody that you have a great relationship. If it's a realtor like Tom or Johnny, if it's Ken, a financial planner, they know people. and they're going to know people that can refer you to people that do this professionally and kind of want to see you succeed in all of the phases of your life. So on the home side, this is a good tip for really anybody. Every year your policies renew and you get, it's like your replacement cost on your home goes up just a little. Everything kind of ticks up with time. You can adjust that stuff. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Your replacement cost, your other structures coverage, if you look at your homeowner's policy, that's basically like a detached garage, a carport, a shop. You can take those limits down because a lot of times just over the years, people renew and they don't realize, oh, why is my house this high? And remember, I always try to tell people the replacement cost of your home is different than what the market value is. So a lot of times they'll see a discrepancy, whatever the real estate market's doing, and they'll be like, we're like, don't worry, your replacement cost. And we have a replacement cost estimator that you can give me the specs of your home and I can tell you what it would cost to rebuild that home today. Just obviously we're not going to put shag carpet if you still have shag carpet. There's going to be better carpet. So things like that. I also think that when people do home improvements, they do new roof, they do a new HVAC unit, new plumbing, new electrical. We always forget to let our insurance companies know. And so a lot of times if you let them know, I mean, you're saving money right there. Right now, a big thing is the automatic leak detection system. It's kind of killing people right now. Those are great. They're not too expensive. So it basically alerts you if there's a leak somewhere in the house to prevent a more catastrophic loss. So you can kind of catch it earlier. Those are great. They don't cost, I mean, they're not cheap, but they're under $2,000 and it's a great investment and you save a lot of money on your homeowner's insurance policy. And in California, we need all the help we can get to save money on the premiums because I think Tom and Johnny and Ken can attest it's getting a little bit wild out there.
Yeah.
Part of that, right, is obviously the wildfire concerns, right? Are there other things that are causing those rates to be higher? I know there's people saying like, why are my rates higher? And I think one concern that I would have for anybody that's listening to this is that they see their rates going up, and so they jump to some online portal, right, and that promises them a better price. And then once they actually have a catastrophic event, they realize that they were way underinsured, right? And it was good for the moment because they were able to knock off a few dollars, but in the end, it ended up costing them dearly, right? What they'd worked so hard for, what Ken had helped them to build over time, all of a sudden now, is completely jeopardized. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's causing insurance rates to go up, and maybe any advice that you have for people that are struggling either getting insurance at all or wanting to keep it lower? And again, kind of what you shared already was really helpful.
I think just to keep it pretty simple, what's happening is we do have companies that have left California, and what that has done is it's pushed that business that would have been with those companies, and it's pushed it into our other carriers that have stayed. So I think a lot of the carriers are oversaturated and taking on business that they wouldn't have otherwise wanted to take on. So this is what causes kind of the hard insurance market. And now these insurance companies are extremely picky with what they're writing because they're really trying to mitigate their risk, and I think that insurance fraud is a big thing. That, basically the fraud affidavit we have to sign now when we renew our insurance license isn't there for no reason, but I do think that really the wildfire areas, I've been hearing so much, hey, they won't take me. I'm in a wildfire area, and we're talking suburbs of Sacramento that never have been a wildfire area. And really, I don't think that's what it is. I don't know what they're saying to interpret that that's what the carrier's saying. I think that that's their way of, maybe they're just oversaturated in an area. And even that's pushed a bunch of business into the California Fair Plan, which I don't know that they ever intended on taking all of that business. It used to just be a program of insurance, like your last resort insurance. It was never intended to be what it is right now. So I just think we need a lot of reform. We need a lot of help, you know, in that area. But I do think our agency, what I've been really happy with is when carriers were pulling out of California, we knew that companies that were actually out of Florida and Georgia and Alabama, they were taking California business no problem. So we went and got appointments. So we had other options for our clients that were being non-renewed from the big named carriers. Like, not to worry, we have something else for you. So
Well, you know, your firm is kind of standing behind Californians and saying, hey, we'll find a solution for you, right? Even if
absolutely.
insurance from is not here anymore. I love that.
You know, Justin, if I could actually just add one piece to that, you know, I think, Renee, I think that this whole thing that you talked about, the leak detection, you know, over the last probably 4 years, I know of at least 10 clients that have had a water leak claim. And I have 3 clients that have had a house burned down, either from the Paradise Fires, Santa Rosa, or the fires down in Southern California. The reason why that leak detection, it's you know, like you said, it's less than a couple $1,000s. But the reason why the insurance companies will actually go and say, hey, we're gonna lower your premiums a lot is it's a huge claim prevention. And here's the thing I'll tell you, you know, it's like, yeah, it might be nice to get a little bit of extra money to do the remodel, but your house is tore up for like 9 months. It is not a pleasant experience. Get the leak detection and save some money on your insurance. Renee, that was a great point to bring up. Everybody that's listening to this should go out and do that.
Great advice. Let's go, Johnny. You've got some really interesting strategies, right? Really helping people get that are maybe not at retirement age, but they want to start preparing early, right? This is preparing for retirement in uncertain times. You don't have to be on the edge of retirement to start preparing. In fact, it's much better if you're not, right? So talk us through what some of the strategies that you see in real estate that really help people to begin early of leveraging the power of real estate to get to that point to where they do have the problem that Tom helps them solve, which is consolidating that.
Absolutely. So there's five main different returns that I'm going to go over really briefly. I'll share my screen. If I don't, it's like giving you a haircut over the phone. It just doesn't work. So what we're going to do is there's 5 different return on investments within investment property. Really briefly, I promise to be brief. My name is Johnny, local broker, top producer, chairman of the education committee here at the local Association of Realtors twice, real estate event coordinator. I'm a father. I got a 2.5-year-old and a 1-month-old at home. And been a husband to my beautiful wife of 11 years. And what's interesting about my real estate journey is that we changed markets 3 times our first 4 years in real estate. So, but luckily we were able to become voted the best real estate team in Roseville the last 3 years in a row. And we are the most Google reviewed team in the Sacramento region. So just a little bit about me before I jump into the nuts and bolts of those 5 different ROIs. So let's just say you're buying a property, a typical home. Let's say the purchase price is $500,000. Trying to keep the numbers here simple. They can vary wildly, but let's just keep the numbers basic. $500,000 purchase price, 20% down. That means you're putting $100,000 down on the home. So what does that look like? Well, the first way that you get a return on that investment is obviously cash flow. We've all heard about that. The most basic equation is income minus expenses, and there you have some cash flow. So let's say you're only making, after everything's been paid for, $100 a month. It's really, really skinny, okay? Well, that first year, $100 a month times 12, it's gonna be $1,200 that first year. And if you put $100,000 down on that home, that's roughly a 1.2% return that first year on that $100,000. The second way you'll make some money is with the principal pay down. So let's say your mortgage like just the mortgage, not the taxes and the insurance and all that. Let's just say your mortgage, so your principal and interest is about $2,000 a month. Okay. Times that by 12, that's $24,000 a year. And let's say for that first year, you're paying roughly 30% in principal. Most of it's going towards interest. So that in that first year, 30% of it, let's say, is going towards principal. That means in that first year, your tenant paid down $7,200 of that loan balance. And if you times that by your tax bracket, that's about $2,500 on year one. So principal pay down that your tenant paid down on that mortgage balance, again, based off that $100,000 initial investment, is 2.5%. And then, of course, there's the interest deduction on a real estate home. Most people just focus on cash flow, but there's so much more to it than just the cash flow. So with the interest deduction, same mortgage payment, but this time about 70% of it's going towards interest in year one. So that's about $16,800. Times that by your tax bracket, that's almost $6,000. So year one, just with the interest deduction at a 35% tax bracket, you are seeing about a 5.8% return of your cash invested. And then,
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. So that's the first three, and then there's the fourth one. So that's depreciation. So it's a tax benefit, it's a paper loss on residential properties. It's depreciated over 27 and a half years, and that's only on the improvements of the property. So let's say that's 80% of the cost. So if you bought the home for $500,000, let's say 20% of that or 100 grand of that is for the land, that still leaves you with $400,000 that you can then depreciate over 27 and a half years. So how the number works out on that is essentially it's a 5% return on the depreciation that you get to claim for the next 27 and a half years. So right there on those first four, this is without appreciation. Without appreciation, you get 1.2% on cash flow, 2.5% on the principal pay down that your tenants are paying, 5.8% interest deduction, and a 5% depreciation of the property. Year one, that's 14.5% return of that initial $100,000 investment. It's pretty stellar. And so if you're thinking, hey, am I too old to get started in real estate? Is this more of like something I should have started doing 30 years ago? Like the old proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree? 30 years ago, when's the second best time? Right now. Right now is still a good time for you to get involved in real estate, and then pass that on to your family. We deal with a lot of kids who are inheriting real estate, and then we're able to help them with that transition and send them over to a property manager. So the last and final thing is, of course, appreciation. Recently, appreciation has been crazy, more to the tune of about 12%. But let's just say it was, for conservative numbers, 6%. This is basically hedging against inflation. So there's that. I have this joke with my wife when we first started dating. She's like, "You don't know how much anything costs." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure I do." She's like, "How much are eggs?" And I said, "I don't know, $12 for a dozen." I have no idea. A buck an egg sounds fair to me. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're horrible." So if there was a show called The Price is Wrong, I would absolutely win. But unfortunately, with inflation, the price of eggs has gone up significantly. And so what real estate does is it hedges against the inflation, the powers of, inflation and that we experience. So let's just say, again, 6% return, roughly. Again, this is just only realized when you sell or when you use one of the strategies that Tom talked about. But if you add that all up together, year one, let's just say you had that 6% appreciation the first year, that's over 20% of your cash on cash return. Granted, some of these are paper, but isn't this incredible? Most people don't realize all the different ways that they just think about cash flow and they think, okay, appreciation, maybe someday I can't bank on that. And that's why I broke it down to where it's just 14.5% the first year without appreciation. So there's that. So key takeaways, it's not too late to start investing in real estate, and it's not too early to start investing in real estate. So any questions for me on those 5 key ones?
Yeah, let's delve into this. Appreciate you sharing that, Johnny. That was fantastic. Would love to hear just any feedback from any of you when you're looking at, again, building wealth through real estate, getting started. I think to your point, anybody who's ever maybe bought a home and sold it. I fall into this category. My wife and I bought our first home, 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom home. And it was $145,000, which to us seemed like an immense amount of money. And we were so excited when we got to sell that. And after we, went through closing, it was $6,000, and we're like, I thought it was going to be, I thought they were going to take home more than that. Now that home is, I think, worth $275,000, and we would have owned it free and clear, or been real close by now. And so, looking back, I think we say, boy, I just wish I would have bought more real estate and sold less of it or sold none of it, right? While I continued to plow money to other more passive, streams like in the market, like Ken helps to manage. But love to hear any thoughts on this. Any of you who have owned real strategies?
Well, thanks, Johnny. That was great. And of course, you've probably all heard the saying, invest in what you know. And so I think that is very important, but I think it's also important to diversify your portfolio. So seek other professionals, chat with your investment advisor or Ken Christie to diversify your portfolio in addition to investing what you know. So I thought it was a great share, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Renee, talk to us a little bit about your perspective on this. You see people getting into maybe real estate investing, right? Just getting starting early. Any insight for them as they go about thinking about insurance on properties that they're not personally occupying? What would you?
I think that it's a great idea we work with investors, and there's policies for specific investors that have them all in one spot. But I would more than likely probably have you work with an insurance agent that kind of knows when everything's coming due, or if you're going to be getting a huge increase on one of your properties for no reason, no claims, maybe have them work on remarketing that for you before the renewal date. So you can maybe have a better option there. So you're not just renewing and not thinking about it. Like I said, by the time customers get to Ken and they're ready to show Ken everything, there's probably a lot of policies that they've had renew just automatically, and they're probably super high. I mean, again, this is a funky time in California, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get better. But I do think just having somebody that's kind of on it, and that could look at your portfolio and know when to shop, what to renew, what you can adjust coverages on. I mean, I know claims is a big thing too. A lot of companies don't want anybody that have had claims, but there are companies out there that are taking people with 1, 2, and 3 claims. It's just, you're going to be paying for it, but they're out there. And I think sometimes things happen that it's a sudden and accidental loss. That's what insurance is for. And so I feel like people, property owners, investors, they feel like they're being penalized right now in every avenue. And I'm a consumer as well, so I understand that. But I think having a good relationship with an insurance agent that knows, or a broker that knows what's going on in the market and can kind of give you some insight of why that's happening, so you feel less slighted by it, not feeling alone.
Yeah.
One point that I think is worth noting is, again, having great advisors, as we advised previously, and being sure that that you're actually taking advantage of their advice, right? I think sometimes great advisors like these here tonight will reach out and say, hey, I'm ready to do an annual review. No, I'm good, no thanks, right? I'm busy, didn't have time to do that. And I don't know that there could be a more foolish, and I'm pointing at myself here because I've done that before. And all of a sudden, my life has changed, and I haven't let my advisor know whether my goals or my situation for the advice that was given at one point is no longer that relevant, right? And it wasn't to their fault. It's because I declined the opportunity to meet with them on a regular basis that would have given me the ability to be up to date. Ken, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm sure you have obviously a large portfolio of clients and always looking for more of just the right ones. What would you say to that as far as your annual reviews and what wisdom and help comes from those clients who take you up on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm one of those kind of guys that when I buy a car that is going to last 10, 15 years. And it's like, you can buy a really high quality, like I drive a Lexus and I love my Lexus, but how do you get that Lexus I mean, they're bulletproof. I mean, I think they have an autoimmune system, right? That it's like, if something breaks, I think it almost heals itself. But how do you make a Lexus go 100,000 or 150,000 miles? You maintain it. If I go and say, I'm too busy to get the oil changed, I'm too busy to actually put new tires on when the tires need to be replaced, you're taking actually a really good thing and actually you're abusing it, and you're not actually maximizing everything that you can get out of it. So when it comes to actually, when you think about strategy and plan, sometimes those annual reviews are, really not too much has changed. But we don't really have to update things too much. Thanks for keeping my portfolio up to date. And gosh, my mortgage rates are really good. And man, the insurance stuff, all that looks fantastic. And, the only thing we've done this year is work with Tom, and we bought another rental, and you guys put everything in place and it's in the trust and all that stuff. Hey, great. Hey, then let's have a little more conversation. What's going on with the kids or the grandkids? And, what else are you doing? What vacations are you taking? What things are you dreaming about? And you can build those relationships with those professionals, because the relationship is also a really important part of it. But then there's going to be the times where you've done your annual review, and all of a sudden 4 months later, you have a life event that happens that just kind of turn things upside down. And because you have the relationship, you can step in and have the conversations of like, hey, what do I do now that I just found out that I have a grandchild that has autism, and I want to make sure we provide for their education? Or, hey, I had a health diagnosis that things might look really kind of scary, and how are we going to navigate? How do I make sure my family's okay? How do I create some certainty in this uncertain time? And that stuff is just so important on taking and building those relationships. And like all relationships, they take time. And you should be thinking about working with somebody that when you call, they take your call, they return your call, and they interact with you. But also they're proactive with you about reaching out and saying, hey, Justin, we haven't talked for 5 months. I hope you're doing okay. But, I wanted to just touch base, check in with you, see how you're doing. Do you have that type of relationship with the professionals that you're working with? Relationship is as big of a component and important part as their competency is in the things that they actually do. Critical. I do believe that. I believe that passionately.
And one of the reasons I was really excited to highlight you shared with me that on a regular basis, you do an event for all of your clients. It's an online virtual event where you're updating them on the market, right? Talk about that really quickly, because I think many are probably listening to this saying like, yeah, I know my financial advisor's name, and I get maybe statements in the mail, but I don't have somebody proactively leading me through what's current right now. Would you talk to us about that? I was so impressed by what you had shared with me previously.
Yeah, so one of the things that we started doing, and this is one of the good things that came out of COVID, was this ability to do Zoom calls and everybody to feel comfortable with it. If we go back to 2016, I said, hey, let's do a WebEx, and people go, no. But today we feel very comfortable logging in, and we actually can feel the personal part of it. And so one of the things that we do, it's actually, we've pushed it out a little bit. We used to do it every week. We're now doing it every 2 weeks, where my business partner and I, we sit down and we peel apart. It's usually about a 20-minute Zoom call that any of our clients or our clients' friends or neighbors or just people that they want to share the Zoom link with, that we just give them kind of a market update, economic update, what's going on behind the scenes. Because in today's world of social media, the stuff that's being thrown out is the stuff that is actually, what's the big highlight? What's the thing that's like, oh no, I'm worried about, whatever's going to happen. But what's really going on behind the scenes? And what are the real things that are causing the markets to act certain ways? And then the other part of it is that this is what we're doing to your portfolio to navigate it. And sometimes it's like, we're not changing anything. And other times it's like, we've made these 6 changes and they've been significant, but we've already done that for you in your portfolio because we manage money on a discretionary basis. The biggest thing that it's done is it's allowed people to know that we are fully active, ongoing, day in and day out, and that they don't have to wait until we have that annual review that I'm looking at their portfolios and the stuff that they have going on. We are actively all the time, fully engaged. The power of software to be able to manage money is just tremendous. And so we are able to actually continue to keep everybody up to date with our best ideas, and we don't have to have a conversation in order to do that component of it. But one of the things that we always talk about at the very end, and if there's something that we've talked about that sparks you want to have a conversation about your own situation, send us an email. Let's get you on the calendar, whether it's a Zoom call or get you face to face, and let's go over your personal situation. Because a group call like that still does not necessarily replace that annual review or those connections that we're having, but it helps to actually be able to navigate on an ongoing basis, and for the client to know that we are actively fully engaged in their situation at all times.
I love it. I think you shared in my opinion, the 1-2 punch, which is you're showing the fact that you're very in touch with the market and what's happening. And you're also very in touch with their lives and what's happening there, right? To where now it's not a one size fits all, as this is what we're doing for everybody. It's, what's happening here personally, and what's happening in the market. And now you can, in those individual consultations, you can begin to marry up the best advice based on their specific situation. I think that's super unique. We just have a few minutes left. I'd love to hear, from everybody really quickly. Ken did a great job of kind of leading this conversation of kind of the private consultations, right? The value of utilizing you as the professional. So Johnny, if you wouldn't mind just kicking us off, we'll go to you and then Tom, and then we'll end with, with Renee about what the value of kind of the individual consultation that you bring to your clients.
Yeah. So the best thing about working with us is really just the network of people that we work with. Of course, we have experience, that goes without saying, but when somebody says, hey, do you know somebody for this? You got somebody for that? It's like, absolutely. And then they come out and then we hear like, oh my gosh, that cleaning person was so great. Your roofer was phenomenal. That handyman, I could not have done that stuff without him. And it's just those ongoing things that really cements the value that we provide, because it's more than just a transaction. It's everything that, like, buying the house, that's stressful. That's a process in and of itself. But knowing that you can reach out to us during and after the close, it really makes it, like, gives our clients a peace of mind.
I love that. When they hire you, they hire a team, right?
Exactly.
Someone, what would you say? You've been at this again, 45 years licensed. You've consulted a lot of people. What value is there for the client, would you say, in an individual consultation, especially on this topic of preparing for retirement in uncertain times? Can you kind of speak to why it would be important for them to actually consult with a professional in real estate who has the kind of experience and has touched the number of households that that you and Johnny have?
Sure. And it's not a one thing that fits all. It all comes down to meeting and connecting and creating that relationship. And really just, I love to ask great questions to really dig deep and find out what someone's goals are, what their big why is, where they would like to be. And because there's always a gap. Everyone is trying to go from A to B. B is where you want to go, and A is where you are right now. So there's always a gap. And there's usually a problem that needs to get solved. So I just love to solve problems and help people so they can reach their goals, whether it's financial, health, emotional, family, whatever it is. And there's a great saying that one of my coaches says, and that is, money changes hands when problems get solved. So just love to help people, love to solve problems.
Love it. All right, Renee, bring us home, my dear. It's been so fun to hear your expertise thus far. Talk to us about what, again, kind of the private consultation level experience that you offer to clients, especially on this topic of preparing for retirement in uncertain times. Talk to us about maybe why you value that and why your clients also value it. We can't hear you. Your good ideas.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I think all of us are people. So I really do enjoy getting to know people and figuring out. I think my favorite thing is when somebody comes to me acting like their problem is so unique and it's just this urgent 911 thing. And I can tell them, oh, yeah, I know what that is. No worries. We got it. I can handle that for you. It's simple. Don't worry. And then they're like, oh, my gosh, I've been worried about this all day. And to them, it's a big deal, but to us, we deal with it all the time. And I think that's that's what we offer to our customers is we do have the experience. So 9 times out of 10, if you're giving us a scenario, we've seen it a dozen other times that might be unique to you, but to us, it's not. And I think that I just really enjoy seeing their blood pressure just, whoo, it's not a big deal. It's fine. We'll handle it for you. And then I think the bigger part of what's missing in a lot of businesses, and I mean, I think all of us have been in places where maybe we weren't able to give the service that that customer deserved at that time. But right now, more than anything, I'm noticing that just that extra phone call or that extra touch right now, people are really appreciating it. And there were times maybe a couple of years ago where they didn't have time for you, and that's fine. But we're in a time right now where people do like eye contact, the quick text to make sure that everything's okay. Hey, was that phone call okay? Was there anything else you needed? It's very, very appreciated, and it's going a really long way right now. So that's what I had to add. Yeah.
I love that. I think, again, in a world where everyone's looking more and more to artificial intelligence, that should be enhancing the professional so that the professional can better serve the client, not replacing the professional, right? I think these professionals understand the value of the best technology out there to empower them to be more personable and really better at consulting you for your very customized and personal situation. So I'm going to ask our panelists to stay here after we wrap up. I want to spend just a few more minutes with you here. But to everybody else who's been watching this live via the YouTube stream and/or anyone that's watching this after the fact, we're very grateful for you. If by chance you're anywhere near the Roseville area and you need to either utilize or recommend professionals who will take care of you in the way that we've all been taken care of here tonight, you know who to talk to. We'll have their contact information for you so you'll know how to reach out. And they will let you know if they believe that they're the right fit for you, right? These are very established, very successful professionals. And there are some clients who are not the right fit, and they'll be the first to tell you. So just know that we've chosen those types of professionals for that reason, so that you can really get a unique perspective and know that it is the right fit, the right alignment for you to be in business with them. So again, I want to thank everybody for listening and that we appreciate it. And thank you, Roseville.